managed to pull that revive off, which you really only see in trios, right? Even though they tried to full send, just one person playing defense is just good enough to kind of hold out and get those saves off. So lucky for them, Cursive is going to be able to pop his minis there. You saw him. He's still in the running here. But we have a battle now on the Storm line back here. EG's under fire right now. They're still 3-1 in this situation. It's one tap, boom, who gets hit with a big shot right there. Puts him right down.
And another one, a follow-up to Dev there. That was okay, Tormund. Those flick shots were out of this world.
Wait a second, was that a... Did he no-scope him in the face? Like, what just happened right there?
Dude, honestly, I blinked and I missed it. That's how good ME is. But, dude, look at this loadout right now. So this is what we kind of talked about, right? So similar loadout to what we saw from Cursive. The difference is he is rocking the legendary infantry rifle instead of that scoped AR. So, you know, your loadout's very much going to dictate what you can and can't do. And right now, Tormund has a lot... Okay, I was about to be like, bro, did you just like body shot that?
That looked like
that would have been so dope. Close. Very close, though.
Very, very close indeed. So they're facing up a tough rotation here. They have a long way to go. There's a team perched up on the high ground, team to the left, team based up in front of them, one down in the ditch below them. This is a struggle of a rotation. I mean, they do have shockwaves, and look, they're looking at the extra mass. They're looking at the extra trap in the zone like, hey, buddy, is it worth it? Like, we kind of need this. Okay, lucky for them, they do have a launch pad. They're going for that immediate launch pad play. Have to hug the mountain right here. There it is. They're going to go in and block that line of sight just a little bit, and lucky for them, they do not get the focus of the server as they make it across the river here now.
But look on the little hill there that was on their left. Obito, Nightmare, and their third partner is here. They are here ready to potentially take another win if possible. Now, these guys are already sitting on 4 eliminations, which, by the way, 4 eliminations halfway through your game in a server like this speaks volumes in itself. Like, it's either one of two things, right? They had that early drop, they contested a team, and they eliminated them, or what we saw is they said, you know what, it's almost late game, we're moving it in there, let's try and make a pick. They do have the double heavy snipe and the rocket launcher monster. They could make some plays.
That's right. With the heavy sniper, with their RPG, it actually looks like they're poised up for one right now. There goes the heavy snipe to open up a box right there. They find a brute. In comes the shots. They just want to expose that brute, get as much damage in it as possible. And that's a 121. That's going to connect with two different players right there. That's huge. That team is going to be in a world of hurting. In comes the RPG. Heavy snipe play right there. Cracks it right open. LX KBR goes down. In comes another rocket, and they just wipe that entire team up.
But see, that's the difference, right? Earlier on in the match, we saw the Brute kind of terrorizing a few different trios. But this is exactly what you want to do. They quickly identified that's a Brute. And look at that. They just immediately destroyed that entire trio almost effortlessly, right? Like, the only thing they really traded was a few AR rounds, which looking at just Pro here, Lax, he's got almost 800 rounds of AR, completely topped off on rockets. He used, I think, 4 rockets back there, if I remember correctly, all to just pick up another trio. Like, that's huge, and that's just going to continue to propel him. It's also going to remove that Brute from play. So, because if that had gone into late game, that would have definitely devastated the battlefield.
You also got to appreciate the team that was above him was like, hey, the guys below us have RPGs and heavy snipers, by the way. Let's get out of here. They launched at it right. Yeah, they launched at it right out of there. Like, dude, I want nothing to do with this. So off they went, and now they get a free launch pad. We like to call these the community launch pad. Sharing is caring in the situation here where they get that freebie rotation. Anyone nearby gets to kind of skate on out of there as well. And here's a look at your server. As you see, there's still a couple of faces to look out for here. Ranger, Nightmare, and Obito we saw pop off just a bit ago. Ranger really making some big plays here. Looks like he's contesting for the high ground. He's trying to use that distraction of the team that was battling there, and it's going to work out. They're gonna get this high ground. The shockwave is going to come up. Is it going to be enough? Doesn't look like it. Things are going to pause up a bit here. His Rangers still, they're very high, though. His boys are battling here, Zeke.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have the loadout. Like, unless he has, like, I was going to say, the only thing he can do is shockwave here, but, I mean, or just catch Mood completely off guard. That is a 100 to the back of his head, and they're going to drop him and find potential more loot. There is an edit peek going on, and there you go. See ya later. I'm so sorry. I'll just see myself out here. See, I did it twice.
Later. Take it out right there by the MES boys. That was actually...
We got our jib
really
operator
intense.
over here, Nicole. She's dying. She's dying. I got one person to laugh. We did it, boys. All right.
Was it worth it, Zeke?
Yes, it was. It's always worth it. Ranger and Obito here. Now, the question is, did Nightmare go down, or is he just lower somewhere else? Okay, so Nightmare is actually down. Ranger has 4 eliminations, and Obito is the 1. So that means it's just going to be them for the rest of the game, because there's no way you're getting a revive off at this point in the game.
Look how high up they are as well. They're so high up right here.
Really
They only
scary.
have 1 shockwave.
This is too scary.
But I mean, they got the elims while on the high ground, so you know they just replenished a ton of material. The question is it enough?
Oh,
no,
God, the rocket!
It's not enough.
No, the rocket, you got to launch.
Yep, there it is. They saw it coming. He shockwaves right off. He still manages to land on high ground, and more shockwaves are now coming out. But him and his duo that remains from this trio here are left alone to battle this server out.
And Ranger had a shockwave that he used to get much further down, so they're very far apart right now. But Ranger's doing okay, just took a big hit, and his shield got chunked down. They have to try and regroup if possible, but I mean, everyone else in the lobby is onto what they're doing. Now, he's going to find Baguette here, his deliciousness, and he's going to try and get some of that potential loot. More shockwaves are coming through, so now he can try to make more plays. The question is, where is Ranger? Like, Obito's making a play for high ground again. He's like, look, I don't know what you're doing. I've got to try and get back up to high ground. Because of that, Ranger falls, and now look, Obito has unfortunately launched himself behind everyone. No shotting gun can help you there. It's a tough life to live, but the game keeps on rolling. Brook, is down there on no HP. Gentle is here, kind of on the safer side of the circle. But look, Monster, across the board, everyone is in critical condition right now.
The server just got melted. I don't know what happened, but that zone wave was absolutely devastating to most of the players that remained in this lobby. Shockwaves are now popping off right here as Power GNTL, Power Gentle is trying to hold it down, trying to stay in the running here. He has 1 shield bubble remaining. If he uses it, he can't fire up. If he doesn't use it, he kind of goes down without it. It could be the difference in keeping him in the game here. He's going to run for the mats. There's going to be huge mats. He actually didn't have any up until that point. There's a minigun. There's an RPG right next to him. He's going to focus the RPG player instead of using that to his advantage here. So now he's left in a 1v1 situation. He did get 1 material off of that. That's all he has. Can he connect? Zeke here. He has 1 more shot to make, and he does connect. Not Weevil falls in the final moments. Gentle somehow pulling it all together, making the right decision to hit in his shots.
That is absolutely insane. With no materials, constantly having to scavenge. Gentle there made it all work in his favor. And don't forget, that was one of the trio we saw in the very beginning that started the game with the Brood. So they still play second because of that. Still points to be divvied out. For now, we're going to go back into studio with Sundown. Sundown, what you got for us?
Thank you so much, Zeke and Monster. And what I got will be some highlights from that last game we just saw, and then the final results from Heat 2 of the Middle East. So we'll see who's going to round out the second half of that roster in the grand finals tomorrow. But first, let's take a look at some of the action that went down and what led to the final moments. So first, we're hopping on board. We saw Thunder Carl have a great game previously with those Rockets in the last game. Got to watch him break that down, having a very strong early game here, able to put to work with that recently unvaulted TAC SMG, the high rate of fire just ripping apart. You can see Reed able to follow up right away, putting the 2 tactical weapons to great tactical use there, cleaning that one up and closing out the fight. Now, we talked about kind of the limited weaknesses the Brute has and how it can kind of affect it right here. You're third-partying somebody who's already at multiple levels. There is no way they're going to be able to turn and react. That is basically free mowing for the Brute. Now, it does end up getting focused down eventually, but not before they're able to pick up by his lonesome. And this is what we talked about in the Middle East, how the gameplay tends to break down towards the end. People lose a little bit more of their teamwork compared to the other regions, and that's what allows Gentle to just out-survive the rest of the lobby, picking up a number of clutch elims at the end, which ends up pushing him up a difference of 9+ points there from the placements and the eliminations he was able to get, those final moments being enough to push them up into the grand final territory. Let's take a look at the standings, and I mean, you can see them right up there on the board as well. Just a great performance coming out, the results coming on here, and like, again, my pick right there, Prime, Aflame, and Hunter, but also shout out to Obito, Nightmare, and Ranger for their great performance, the trio playing out of India. So again, I love seeing these different regions being able to go through. We will actually also see the next page as well, since the top 16 are the ones who are advancing. So you can see the line right there. And again, the one thing I want to note is the difference of how many in Fortnite, when all the little plays matter. Right here, the line, it's 1 point. That's one elimination. That's getting one other revive. That's finishing one other knock, but able to push through one-shot Soriana and Power RV. So honestly, the field is now set. Both of the trios who we predicted will be competing in the grand final tomorrow, and I'm excited because we'll get an opportunity to see some of those matches and crown our first ever Season X champion. So it's going to be great. We've seen a lot of Middle East so far. That's it for the games from them. We're going to throw it to a quick 5-minute break while we get ourselves situated, use the bathroom, do anything, go walk your dog real quick, get some water, get some food in you, because we're going to do the same, and then we'll be back with more Fortnite action.
Hello family of Fortnite, BallTW here, and throughout the Fortnite Champion Series, we're going to be trying to get more acquainted with the world of competitive Fortnite. Today, we're going to be discussing the 3 different stages of a competitive Fortnite game. The early game, the mid game, and the late game, and what different players have as their goals during these stages in order to achieve the ultimate goal, the Victory Royale. Let's start with the early game. Also called the looting phase, this is where all players are attempting to secure their chosen landing spot and maximize their loot potential. In competitive Fortnite, every game matters, so players try to strike a balance between high loot opportunity and safety so as to not waste a game by being eliminated early. Do you drop at a high loot POI like Retail Row or Paradise Palms? Or land at a safer POI on the edge of the map, where less players drop because of less loot. Regardless, the goal is common, whether you take a passive approach by looting safely on the side of the map, or an aggressive and risky approach by letting others loot for you and finding early eliminations. Now that we know what the early game is, what should we be looking out for during this stage? First things first, being contested. The first realization players make when landing is whether you're being contested or not, to prepare for the upcoming possible fight. Trios want to try to force your opponent into the more disadvantageous position cut off from loot potential. Either they have to make a desperation push, or they're stuck with less loot where you can easily clean up. That's just the beginning, as even though it starts off high intensity with all the different POIs being contested, it quickly slows down as the rotations begin towards first zone. Looting doesn't end here, and most competitive players will have a loot path, which optimizes their possibility for finding the crucial mobility and weapon upgrades. Thanks to the new battle map feature in the replay mode, we can study these loot paths and rotations quite easily these days. So go check that out in any replay from the Fortnite Champion Series by going into the Compete tab and finding your favorite player. It will vary from game to game, but generally, we move into the mid game around the middle to end of second zone. The mid game is the calm before the storm. Before the storm circle gets too small where it forces the engagements. Most players' goals aren't positional, but in some cases, depending on how the early game went, you again have to strike a balance, this time between looting and farming, or going for the best position. Looting could include playing extremely aggressive to earn yourself other players' loot. In trios, it's much harder to play that aggressive playstyle, since fights take longer and cost more. You want to be efficient with any rotations or fights you have to take. You don't want to spend your precious mobility, valuable resources, or health. This is why you'll see a lot of the top players look directly for center zone in the mid game. When you're in the center zone, you end up giving yourself the most chance of being in the next storm circle when it gets revealed. You'll then have to go less distance and thus spend less materials. Finally, the end game, the most exciting, hectic, thrilling, and difficult part of competitive Fortnite. Experiencing an endgame can be confusing and hard to process, but it will also be one of the most rewarding and fun times to play and watch. This is when you take all the advantages you built in the early game and the mid game and use them to push yourself to a victory royale, and also find as many eliminations as possible. In the current Fortnite Champion Series format, every elimination matters, just like it did in the World Cup. From 6th zone onwards, where the calm from the mid-game explodes into a cacophony of tunneling, mobility usage, and shots being fired, you'll see teams go for the ever-so advantageous high ground, where they can tunnel very cheaply and have the most opportunity on the rest of the server for elimination, as they have the top-down view. You'll also see teams call out the need to find a good layer, which is away from other players, both above, below, and horizontally from you. You'll see teams desperate for the extra materials to last them through to the full zone closure, going for impact eliminations, where they can top off on resources and power weaponry of their fallen opponents. So, whether you're watching or you're joining us on the field, take stock in the stage of the game. The early game, when you're trying to get the best possible loot while it's still available. The mid game, where you're balancing positioning while maintaining what you built during the early game. And finally, the end game. You spend all the advantages you set yourself up with to earn the Victory Royale. Use this to form your game plan in order to earn as many series points weekend after weekend. And maybe next time, we'll be watching and highlighting your top plays. This was Ball TW, and I'll see you in game.
I know. My tryhard skin. Look, this is my new tryhard skin.
He's actually going off that day.
This is my tryhard. Hey, who's this guy? Kick him out.
Yo, who the fuck keep joining?
I have to stop joining. Boy, we ain't trying to play fucking Team Rumble.
Nigga, leave the party and lick my dick.
Come here. Somebody change the
Bro, get the fuck out of here. You're fucking trash.
You're getting mad.
Go. Boy, get out of the party.
You're getting so mad.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello?